in the morning. Sunday night, northwest winds 15 to 20 knots with gusts to 25 knots. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Monday, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts to 20 knots, becoming southwest 5 to 10 knots in the afternoon. Seas 2 to 3 feet. Monday night, south winds 10 to 15 knots. Seas around 2 feet. Tuesday, south winds 10 to 15 knots, increasing to 15 to 20 knots. Seas 4 to 5 feet. Showers through the night. Wednesday, southwest winds 10 to 15 knots, becoming northwest in the evening, then becoming southeast after midnight. Seas 5 to 6 feet, subsiding to 4 feet. Showers in the morning. A chance of showers after midnight. The current time is 8:05 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. This hazardous weather outlook is for the Maryland portion of the Chesapeake Bay, tidal Potomac River, and I-95 corridor through central Maryland, northern Virginia, and District of Columbia. Day 1, tonight. No hazardous weather is expected at this time. Days 2 through 7, Saturday through Thursday. No hazardous weather is expected at this time. Spotter information statement. Spotter activation is not expected at this time. Now for the National Weather Service marine forecast for the Chesapeake Bay from Sandy Point to North Beach. Tonight, northwest winds 15 knots with gusts to 25 knots. Waves 2 feet. Saturday, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots, becoming south in the afternoon. Waves 1 to 2 feet. Saturday night, south winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Waves 2 feet. Sunday, west winds 10 to 15 knots. Gusts up to 20 knots. Waves 2 feet. Sunday night, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Waves 2 feet. Monday, west winds 5 knots, becoming south overnight. Waves 1 feet. Now for the National Weather Service marine forecast for the tidal Potomac from Key Bridge to Smith Point. Tonight, northwest winds 10 to 15 knots with gusts to 25 knots. Waves 2 feet. Saturday, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots, becoming south in the afternoon. Waves 1 foot. Saturday night, south winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Waves 1 foot. Sunday, west winds 10 to 15 knots. Gusts up to 20 knots. Waves 1 to 2 feet. Sunday night, northwest winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Waves 1 to 2 feet. Monday, west winds 5 knots, becoming south overnight. Waves 1 feet. The Northern Virginia mountain forecast for elevations above 2,000 feet including the Skyline Drive. Tonight, cold. Partly cloudy in the evening, then becoming mostly clear. Lows in the upper 20s. Saturday, sunny. Highs in the lower 50s. Saturday night, mostly cloudy. Lows around 40. Sunday, sunny. Highs in the lower 50s.
Alrighty, guys, what is going on? I hope y'all are having a wonderful night. Hope you guys have been staying safe with all the severe weather we've been dealing with here. Regardless, guys, I hope y'all are having a great day so far. So we have a bit to talk about in today's live stream. We are seeing the possibility of another severe weather event impacting the southeast. Now, tornadoes still does not look to be a pretty big concern here. We're gonna go over all this here in 1 second. Let me actually go ahead and turn down my no weather radio on my end. It's pretty loud for me actually. So sorry about that if you hear it bleeding through the mic here. Like I said, y'all, hope y'all are having a wonderful day. Online Tough Guy says, hey guys, what's up? I did see that Matt was also in here as well. What's up, Matt? Welcome, Online Tough Guy. Texas, Louisiana has begun bad this early season. Yeah, it really does start off, across the southeast, and then it does kind of move its way into, bits of the Central Plains here as we do track down. So we're gonna do, I'll tell you what we're gonna do. We're going to go ahead and switch on over here to the screen feed. Like I said, y'all, hope y'all are having a great day so far. So, we have an update here. We have an update on the overall severe weather threat here for the next few days. I'm actually going to slow down the satellite view. It's actually going a little bit too fast there. There we go. Okay. So, we have a new update here in regard to our convective outlook, not just for today, but down the line. That's what we're about to talk about here for the 5th. Now, there is going to be the chance for severe weather across the southeast. We're going to discuss more of that here in a second. So right now we do have a marginal risk for severe weather here for today. The lowest end of the spectrum, like I said, we're talking a severe threat level 1 out of 5. Nothing bigger than that is expected. Maybe some severe weather, maybe some, localized severe weather could be possible. Nothing crazy is actually expected, though, in regard to things. And let's go and take a look here at the at the different risk here. So in regard to tornadoes, there is no tornado threat here for today, which is some good news. We have been dealing with the tornado threat here. We actually had a tornado that was confirmed yesterday here towards my local region here in Virginia. In regard to hail, hail's not a threat either. It's mostly just damaging winds being a threat here with a low 5% chance. I mean, this is literally the lowest end tier you can be here. 5% chance of seeing damaging winds over 60 miles per hour or up to 60 mile per hour wind gusts here. Other than that, nothing's really crazy. Nothing's really crazy going on here at the moment. So, like I said, we have a lot that we need to talk about in today's live stream. We have a lot going on here. We're talking a pretty decent upcoming event here. And like we were looking at yesterday, there's a chance we could see some hail as well as some damaging winds here. They're being the biggest threats here coming down the line. It's going to be pretty ugly here. And we're going to need to watch this here over the next few days. Like I said, things are going to get pretty nasty as we do track down here in time. So we're going to go ahead and move on to tomorrow's outlook. This just so happens to be for my birthday here. So for April 2nd here, being tomorrow, we do have a slight risk that's in effect here across Florida. This does include Tampa as well as Orlando, Daytona Beach. Also this does include Palm Bay, Lake Wales here as well. So it's actually covering a pretty decent area, just north of Cape Coral, Sarasota as well. We are actually seeing this kick off here. In regard to things. So we do have a severe threat level 1 out of 5, just covering the surrounding areas here. I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and bring up my pen here again. Hope it doesn't have trouble like it usually does here. But yeah, across tomorrow we actually do have a slight risk in effect for severe weather here. Alright, let's go ahead and get this handy old pen over here. Get this going on the side that we can actually draw on a screen. So, like I said, severe threat level 1 out of 5 across the dark green. 2 out of 5 across the yellow. So like I said, a scale from 1 to 5. 2 is still kind of on the less end of things, but this is where things start to get kind of interesting. We need to watch out here for tomorrow. Now, in regard to tornadoes, you might be wondering if we have a tornado threat for tomorrow. The answer is yes. We do have a small 2% chance here of seeing tornadoes. 2% chance here does cover a pretty large margin across the central and pretty much south central portion here of Florida. Like I said, this does include Orlando. This does include Port Orange here, Tampa, Fort Pierce here, as well as West Palm Beach, Cape Coral, Sarasota. This also does include Lakeland. So a lot of these areas here are actually in the lookout here. KJ says happy birthday, and also is Discord the only way to get mod? The answer is yes. If you want to become mod, go on the Discord and apply there. Like I said, that's essentially what we're dealing with here. We have a 2% chance here of seeing tornadoes for tomorrow. Now we move into hail threat. There's actually a pretty big hail threat for tomorrow, especially across the yellow. So we have a 5% chance here across the brown. This does include a lot of these areas here of seeing maybe up to a quarter inch, maybe up to a quarter size hail, up to around an inch of hail could be possible across Cape Coral, Tampa. But that threat actually increases to a 15% chance of seeing hail 1 inch in diameter and greater across the yellow. This does include Orlando, Fort Pierce here, Pierce here, as well as West Palm Beach. So this does include some pretty populated areas here. Let's go see, is Walt Disney World under a 2 out of 5? I think that's in Orlando, if I'm not mistaken. If so, yes, Orlando, it does have the slight risk in effect here for tomorrow. So, like I said, not only is it possible tornado going to be possible across Central Florida for tomorrow, but we are seeing a pretty large chance for hail. This does include Orlando, Fort Pierce here, as well as West Palm Beach. Now, in regard to damaging winds, that's the biggest threat here. We also are seeing this as well. We are seeing a 15% chance across the yellow. A 15% chance you could see some damaging winds over 60 miles per hour here. A little bit lower of a percentage here across the brown. Okay, so this does cover a shorter area here, but this is also showing the possibility we could see some wind gusts over 60 miles per hour being possible. So we got to watch out these areas here. A triple threat is expected for Central Florida here tomorrow. Like I said, this does have a smallest threat for a tornado, 2% chance of seeing tornadoes, 15% chance here of seeing hail 1 inch in diameter and greater, as well as Damaging winds also being up to 60 miles per hour being expected. Then we move into, like I said, this is for tomorrow. Then we move into April 3rd. So now this is for your day 3 convective outlook. We're going to go ahead and move back to category here. There is another risk here across Florida, just a little bit south of this. But yes, this is what we are looking at. This does include, this is for Sarasota here, Dundee, Palm Beach. It's a little bit more south here. This does include, it's basically just north of Miami. Miami's right there on that generalized thunderstorm risk here. Nothing more, nothing less. There goes my camera here. So you could see the possibility of maybe some thunderstorms popping off there across the region for tomorrow near Miami, but it's not expected to be severe by any means, okay? That's what we're talking about here in regard to things. So that's what we're talking about here. So now we're going to go ahead and switch to day 4. So this will be essentially here for, like I said, tomorrow is day 2 for April 2nd. April 3rd is day 3. April 4th is day 4. Now, here's where that beginning of that other severe weather event is expected to kick off. We're going to look at the models here in a second, and we're going to discuss what we can expect here down the line. So, right across the yellow, this is where we have a chance for severe weather, and to be exact, a 15% chance we could see some severe weather. There is no breakdown, but I can tell you right now, tornadoes is likely not going to be a concern. More of a hail threat and a damaging wind threat here for basically for the 4th. So, this does include Dallas, Texas, Houston as well as San Antonio. A big old triangle here of severe weather is expected across those populated areas here. This actually leads into the central and western side of Louisiana. I mean, we've already been dealing with a lot of severe weather across these regions lately. It's going to get pretty bad here once again. It's forecasted. So like I said, I don't believe tornadoes is going to be a big concern here for the 4th. However, damaging winds and hail is going to be the biggest threat here. Then we do move into the basically to the 5th here. Okay, now this is where things start to get a little bit interesting. So as this cold front continues to pass its way here to the east, like I said before, so does the severe weather along with it here. This does include eastern Texas, pretty much the entire state here, almost the entire state here, Louisiana, central southern portion here, Mississippi. Like I said, they've already been dealing with a lot of severe weather across the region. Central and southwestern side here of Alabama is also in a threat, as well as Pensacola, Florida, on the western panhandle of Florida here is inside a severe threat. Then we move into the 6th. There is another severe threat just up to a little bit to the northeast. This does include Georgia, including Atlanta, south central portion of Tennessee here. Then we move into the 7th. Okay, now on the 7th, there is no active things as of now. So we're going to continue watching this here over the next few days. As of now, there is severe weather expected today, being the 1st, tomorrow being the 2nd, the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th. And into the 6th here, also the chance. So over the next, pretty much the next 5 days here, not including today, there's a chance for severe weather here across basically a lot of the southeast. A lot of the regions here. Roughly drawing over some of those regions there. Obviously, I just roughly drew this, so you can't take this to be exact, but just roughly around that perimeter. Yet again, we are seeing the possibility of activity. Like I said, though, there's some good news with this. As we're about to look here in the models, the wind shear is not favorable for tornadoes. If so, very weak tornadoes is possible. But like I said, tornadoes is not going to be the main threat, at least what we believe to be. I think that large hail and damaging winds is going to be the main threat here. So I tell you what, let's go ahead and switch on over here to the models, guys. We're going to be discussing in terms of what we can expect here, as well as when can we expect it. So we're going to go ahead and switch down here to the NAM model. This is your North American model in regard to things here. Like I said, we have the cold front that just exits the eastern side of the United States, driving all types of mayhem across the region. Absolutely got pretty crazy here. We track down here further. Now, there is a possibility we could see some storms here across bits of Ohio here. Or sorry, not Ohio, Oklahoma. Get those those O states here sometimes swap for some reason. Even though I know specifically which states they are, but for some reason I just say, whatever one that says O first comes to my mind here. So there's a possibility of some severe weather. Like I said, damaging winds being the most likely concern here across that for today. And we do see all this drive its way here across bits of Florida here for tomorrow into basically the 2nd. We're going to see some severe weather here down, basically across the central portion of the country, or central portion here of Florida, I should say, driving its way down into the southern portion here for the 3rd. And then here's where another system kicks off here. We're going to get some Gulf advection, a lot of that warm air from the Gulf of Mexico. You know how warm it is down there. The winds are going to point to the north, driving up all of that moisture here into the states. And this is going to actually fuel in some warm air here to allow for some convective interaction to occur here across the southeast, allowing for some thunderstorms to pop off here. Now, like I said, as of now, from what we've seen, tornadoes is not going to be a big concern here. And we're actually going to double check on that here right now. So we're actually going to take a look here at the GFS model. This is your long-range American model. A pretty good model for looking at things pretty far out here. So we're going to go ahead and start off here with the southern Great Plains, areas such as Texas here. So we're going to look at that. So we're going to go ahead and move on over here to the mixed layer cape. This is basically just simply your thunderstorm fuel that's in the atmosphere. Any values over 300 is good enough for severe thunderstorms. Which 300 is not the best to have. That's bare minimum potential. You really want to see your values over 1,000 for the maximum effort here. So we are still seeing a decent amount of instability. Like I said, all that warm air is going to be driving its way into the southern plains here, as well as the southeast. We're seeing these values here cranking up over 1,000, kind of near over 2,000 in some areas here. There's a lot of energy in the atmosphere, but there is one problem. We do also have some energy that's pushing down on the atmosphere, which actually might prevent thunderstorms from firing off across the regions here. So that's what we're seeing. It's kind of a bit concerning here. Honestly, it's kind of hard to tell right now. Maybe as we get some closer range model support, from the short range to mid range models here, maybe that cap will be broken, is what I've usually seen from some of these events here, but we'll see exactly what happens. But as we do track down here in time, the models actually have been supporting that cap breaking, that, like I said, all that energy pushing down in the atmosphere. You need thunderstorms to rise instead of sink, so we actually are having some sinking energy here, which is kind of pushing down on storms, preventing them to form here. Now, we do have a lot of energy in place here. We've seen over 2,000. Like I said, that's a lot of instability. That is perfect amount. That's a lot of craziness going on in the atmosphere here. Across the east central portion here of Louisiana, we're going to go ahead and take a sounding here. If you do not know how to read soundings here, we went over some of it yesterday. I don't expect you to know anything on this. I'm going to kind of go off. I'm just going to skim this myself and kind of tell you what we might expect out of the sounding. So, like I said, this is across the east central portion here of Louisiana. Now, obviously, I am seeing a lot of potential here. Our dew points here are in the 70s, showing a lot of moisture here at the surface, which is good for thunderstorms to kick off, as well as seriously, as well as the potential of maybe some, like I said, tornadoes isn't going to be a main threat here, but if there was a chance for tornadoes, that would be favorable for them in regard to the moisture side of things. Relatively dry atmosphere across the mid-levels all the way up to the upper levels of the atmosphere. Like I said, between your red line being your outside temperature and this blue dotted line, if the red is on the left-hand side, that is showing energy in the atmosphere being all right here inside of this gap. That's all convective energy. If it was on the other side, like we see up here in the upper atmosphere, this is all stability. This is all, stable air. So once it kind of crosses the line right there, that's about how high the thunderstorms are going to be. Just under 12 kilometers is kind of what we are expecting here. So, but here's the thing. I'm kind of a bit suspicious, in regard to things. Like I said, tornadoes is not going to be a concern here because essentially one thing. For tornadoes to form, you need your lower level winds here pointing to the north. And that's not the case here. We have them all pointing to the east here, or the northeast, across the whole entire levels of the atmosphere. So the wind the wind direction does not change. It's just straight line winds going on with this. So that's what we're talking about. That's essentially what's going on right here. So we do have a lot of weak wind shear as well. So not only is the wind direction a kind of a concern here, but the magnitude of the winds here is actually kind of weak. We're seeing about 25 miles per hour here towards the surface of the atmosphere, which that is really not really favorable for tornadoes. Maybe a weak tornado if that was in the right pattern. But like I said, the winds are pointing to the east all the way through the atmosphere, so I don't really expect it to be a concern in regard to tornadoes. But like I said, since there is a relatively dry atmosphere across the entirety of the atmosphere, mixed in with a lot of instability, right here where that dry atmosphere is, big hailers are going to be a concern. Big hail is going to be a possible concern here, as well as damaging winds. You can't see it on the map here, but we do have a D-Cape value. This is your downdraft convective available potential energy. This is basically just your thunderstorm fuel here inside of your downdraft. Like I said, you have your updraft. It works just like an engine. What goes up must come down. So essentially, what's going on here, you got that warm air going into the colder environment in the air, and once it cools down, all that's going to sink, because hot air rises, cold air sinks. Once it cools down, it's going to start sinking back to the ground, and if it sinks at a certain speed, it's going to slap the ground here, spreading out all direction, which will cause some damaging winds to occur. That's how those damaging winds become inside of these thunderstorms. Now, here's the thing. Like I said, values here of really over 500 is enough to support some damaging winds. We're seeing that over 1,200. So we could see some damaging winds in excess of 70 miles per hour, and very large hail is expected out of this storm here, according to the sounding across the east central portion of Louisiana. So tornadoes, not so much of a threat here. Hail and damaging winds is going to be a major concern. So, like I said, that's across the east central portion here of Louisiana. Now we're going to do the same thing. We're going to take a sounding here across the central portion here of Mississippi. We're going to see exactly what is going on here at the moment, and we're going to see exactly what we're talking about. So same thing here. We're not really seeing any supportive wind shear towards the surface to the upper levels of the atmosphere here, showing any type of Big tornado concern here. So tornadoes I don't think is going to be a concern. Still a lot of, good moisture here at the surface. 70-degree dew points is absolutely A+, perfect. We have a really, really dry atmosphere once again across the mid-levels of the atmosphere with a lot of energy going all the way up just under 12 kilometers, kind of around that 10-kilometer range. It's about how high the thunderstorm tops are going to be. A little bit shorter compared to what we were seeing here across the east central portion here of Louisiana. However, like I said, due to that dry atmosphere with all of that convective energy here right around those levels, as well as the increasing wind shear once we get to those levels here, around 50, 40 knots or so, that's where we're going to start to see maybe some hail potential being a concern here as well. So, big hailers are kind of expected here for essentially here on the 5th. So, we got to watch out for this. We do have a severe threat. The Storm Prediction Center has issued that threat here. So, we got to continue watching this here over the next few days in regard to things. So, that's exactly what we are talking about. So, decay values here are a little bit lower. Like I said, that downdraft energy is a little bit weaker, but we're talking still over 1,000. That's still supportive of 70+ mile-per-hour wind gusts here. Big wind gusts, big hail. You got to think, if you get both of them occurring, you got a pretty big, pretty good chunk size hailstone moving at 70+ miles per hour. That can cause some serious damage. Something with high velocity, high mass here is showing a lot of energy. If it a lot of impact force, which could cause a lot of damage on property, such as homes, such as furniture, such as vehicles, and even livestock. This can actually hurt and kill livestock with such big hail moving at fast speeds here. Let's go into here. Brian says, what about the Galveston, Texas? Basically, the Texas Gulf Coast, I see. So, in regard to that, the models are kind of showing it mostly be capped out here. There is enough energy in the atmosphere. So, basically, what that means is that, like I said, for thunderstorms, you need air to rise. And there's actually energy that's pushing down on the atmosphere. We call it cap, or basically convective inhibition here. So, essentially, what's happening is that you just have a huge force pushing down on the atmosphere, which is actually preventing thunderstorms from firing. So the models right now are showing a huge cap, a huge amount of energy pushing down, which might prevent thunderstorms from forming here across the eastern side of Texas. But like I said, we're going to watch this here over the next few days. This is for the 5th. We obviously still have about 4 days to go, not including today, before this does kick off here. And once it does, we're going to see what happens. We're going to wait for more, that shorter range to mid-range model support, and we're going to see exactly what the models are showing up here in regard to things. So we're going to continue watching this here over the next few days. Like I said, a lot of things can a lot of things can happen here and change. But like I said, that cap is going to kind of lift here once it moves its way into Louisiana, bits of southern Arkansas, the entire state here of Mississippi, it looks like, and eventually into bits of Alabama. Then that's whenever we do switch on over here to the southeast. So as we do track here to the southeast, like I was saying here, and like I said, as the cold front does move its way to the east, so does the severe threat along with it. Loads and loads amount of energy is going to be driving its way up here to the north. You can see these little wind barbs here pointing to the north. All that warm air from the Gulf of Mexico will be driving its way in across the southeast, kicking up all of that energy here across the region. We're talking valleys here well over 1,000, areas here over near 2,500. That is way more than enough energy that's needed for, severe thunderstorms to pop off here. But once again, in regard to tornadoes, I don't think it's going to be a concern. We're going to take a little sounding here across the south central portion here of Alabama, and we're going to see what's going on here. Like I said, I don't expect you guys to know what this means, but I am going to explain to you what I am seeing off of the sounding here. So like I said, south central portion here of Alabama. Now, so there is something a little bit different with this sounding compared to the other ones that we have seen. You might notice it does say tornado, but obviously you can't just go off of that alone. The first thing you got to check out for is if the sounding is contaminated, which is not, but that's for a topic for another day. So this is a good sounding. This is a valid sounding here. So potential hazard type tornado. You can't just base off of that alone. I've seen so many people who are new to soundings, just because they see the word tornado, think that there's going to be a tornado threat. And that's always not the case here. That is always not the case. So here's what we're talking about. So like I said, we are having actually a little bit of a different directional wind shear. Like I said, it was mostly just to the northeast here at those other soundings. We're actually seeing a bit of a wind directional change from the northeast to the east here. So maybe a brief spin up could occur. Maybe a weak tornado could be possible. But like I said, those wind speeds are pretty weak here still at the surface. We're talking about 20, 25 knots, which, it can still produce maybe a weak tornado, but anything major is not really on the radar here as of now. But it's something that we should still watch out for, at least over the next few days. Now, what we are seeing here is still a relatively dry atmosphere. The models have been picking up this for a long time. That's a big trend, showing that this is going to be the most likely output here. The winds do increase once you kind of pierce through the mid to upper levels of the atmosphere. That's where they are good here. So I do expect maybe some potentially medium to long-lived thunderstorms could be a possibility here. But like I said, maybe a weak brief spin up here of a tornado could be possible. but we're going to see this dry atmosphere in place here with a lot of convective energy. This actually goes up pretty high, just over 12 kilometers here, right where equilibrium level is. Like I said, once that red line here, our outside temperature goes on the right side of this blue dotted line here. That's where the atmosphere is stable. If it's on the left-hand side, this is where it's unstable, and we see the instability here all the way from the surface all the way up here to the equilibrium level, which is just above 12 kilometers. So that's a pretty high top thunderstorm we're talking here. So we got to continue watching this here. So overall thunderstorms is going to be a concern. Now, something very concerning about this, like I said, that downdraft energy we were talking about here, decay values here is near 1,300. So honestly, we could see maybe some damaging winds here, maybe in excess of 70 miles per hour, maybe up to even higher than 80 mile per hour wind gusts here across the southeast. Like I said, damaging winds and hail is going to be the major concern here. Now, there is a possibility, like I said, for maybe a brief spin up on the eastern side of the southeast for the southern plains. It's not really expected here as of now in regard to the soundings, but that's essentially what we are looking at. So we're going to go ahead and grab here another sounding across bits of, basically bits of Georgia. We're talking still over 2,200 mixed layer Cape. That's a lot of energy in the atmosphere here. Now, like I said, this does still show tornado potential hazard type, but let's look at this. So we are having some northeasterlies here with the easterly, shift here. So there is a slight varying wind shear pattern also shown here kind of on the photograph, a slight turn in wind direction here as you go up in the atmosphere. Now, like I said, there is still some pretty weak shear going on here. It's actually more weaker across the regions here, all the way from the mid-levels to the surface. So that's even a little bit more concerning in regard to things, if they'll be able to pop off at all here. So tornadoes, not really expected. Like I said, maybe it would not be impossible for a brief weak spin up, to kick off here, but it's not really going to be the major threat here. Dry atmosphere across the region. We have the high top thunderstorm here, just over 12 kilometers. It's a pretty decent top, thunderstorm here. If you want to convert it in feet, you can actually look up conversions, look up kilometers to feet here. Like I said, it's just over 12 kilometers. That's a pretty high thunderstorm, just around a little bit higher than average jetliners do tend to fly. So pretty high thunderstorm. Not going to lie with you guys. Now, the decape, basically our downdraft energy here is a little bit more weaker, around 800, 900, which still can support some damaging wind gusts, maybe over 60 to 70 mile per hour wind gusts here being a possibility. So that's what we're looking at. It looks like the further we go to the east here, the weaker the wind shear does become, as well as also the increase in the veering wind shear pattern. So that's what we're seeing here, y'all. Obviously, there is some pretty craziness going on here, and we got to watch out for this event. Now, it does look like that the wind shear does increase across the Carolinas here, so we're gonna grab a sounding here across the region, just over 1,000 joules per kilogram. It's a lot of energy still, a decent amount to cause for essentially, honestly, maybe some. Thunderstorms here, obviously being a concern. So this one is showing a bit of a different story. So obviously the wind is a little bit more stronger here towards the mid-levels of the surface here. Northeasterlies moving its way to the northeasterly. So essentially there's not much in directional change here. You can see right here indicated by the photograph, it's mostly just linear winds here, linear wind profile here from the surface to the upper levels. So tornadoes, not really expected either, even though this says potential hazard type to be in tornado. Like I said, a lot of people make this mistake here. Just because it says that does not mean that there is going to be a tornado. Now, I will say there is a relatively dry atmosphere here indicated by your dry bulb as well as your dew point here. Between these two, between your outside temperature here in the red at a certain elevation of the atmosphere here, as well as the green, the further they are spaced apart, the lower the relative humidity, the more drier the air is. Now, we are seeing a very dry atmosphere, which is definitely favorable for the development of hail, because, like I said, dry air takes a lot quicker. It's a lot quicker than saturated air to heat up or cool down. So the environment can cool down much more quickly, which allows for exponential amounts of hail growth being a concern here. So that's what we're talking about in regard to the sounding. Now, decape is a lot less here compared to other ones here. We're talking around 640, so maybe 60 mile per hour wind gusts is going to be the concern here across bits of the Carolinas. So we got to watch this. We got to continue watching this here over the next few days in regard to that. Now, obviously, this is one model. You cannot trust one model individually here, but that's why we're going to wait here on the next range, basically the mid-range to the short-range models to pop out here to give us a better understanding in regard to what we can expect. And I know I've been kind of getting caught behind in what I was saying here in the models, but now we've kind of came to an agreement here. So let's go ahead and talk about some of these comments here. Let's go and see. Abby says, Andrew, I should really be on TV. I've heard a lot of people say that. You make an amazing meteorologist. Thank you so much, Abby. Greatly appreciated. Let's go ahead and see here. Brian says, "What?" Okay, I already went over that here. Matthew says, "What about Oklahoma? Muskogee here? I don't know. I don't know exactly where that's at, but I'll tell you what. I can look it up here on my phone, and I can look where exactly to be here. So yeah, just give me a second. Let me actually go ahead and pull this up here to give you. I don't know if you're still here, Matt, but we're going to take a look here. This is kind of just, okay, it's across the east central portion here of Oklahoma. Okay, that's a good question. We're going to switch our views here to Oklahoma, around this area here. So in regard to energy, there is going to be a little bit of energy driving its way through the region, but, honestly, it's barely going to be reaching you. So as of now, like I said, you really can't trust this model individually, but based off what we're seeing here, it's mostly capped out anyways. There's a lot of energy pushing down the atmosphere. I don't think you're in for a big concern here. That is essentially what we are looking at here. Let's go ahead and see here. Lua says, hi, NW. What's up, Lua? Welcome to the live stream here. Brian says, what is the purple stuff? I guess you mean this stuff right here. This is basically just convective energy here. This is the lower end energy. We're talking under 1,000 joules per kilogram here. Like I said, anything over 500 is favorable for severe weather. Anything over 1,000 is the Goldilocks zone here and higher. Now, basically the pink is showing here under 1,000. The blue is starting to show over 1,000 here. So that's what we're talking about here right now. Let's go and see. Puss in Boo says, hello, what's up? Welcome to the live stream here. Sana says, good evening, everyone. Just checking in to see if anything's going on for Broken Arrow or Oklahoma for the next few days. So Sana, like we were just looking here, it looks like a lot of the energy here is going to mostly be capped out across Oklahoma. Today there is a small threat for damaging winds, but the lowest end threat, so I don't really expect anything crazy to happen. And it does look like it is actually mostly over here. So, but yeah, that's essentially what we are looking here. Let's go ahead and see here. The purple is wind shear, says Brian. So it depends on what we're looking at. If you're looking at a sounding here, I don't know what you're talking about. If you're talking like this stuff, no, this is not wind shear. This is basically just energy in the atmosphere, which is required for thunderstorms. Like I said, think of it like an engine. You need fuel for you need fuel for engines to run. Same thing for thunderstorms. Depends on how much fuel you got in your tank. If you don't have much, storms are going to have a hard time running here. Good example. Now, as we move here to the east, we have a lot of fuel in our tank here, which is going to be running rich, and it's going to be running with a lot of energy here. So yeah, that's essentially what we are talking about here in regard to things. So let's go ahead and take a look here. Not Zach says, hey, what's up, Not Zach? Welcome to the live stream. What is Iowa going to be bad? So we're going to go ahead and switch here to Iowa, just up to the north here across the Midwest. As of now, there is nothing significant for Iowa. A little bit of energy going on here, but it's very, very weak here, and it does look mostly capped out as well. So I really don't expect anything crazy for you anytime soon. Stormy says, notice my area isn't into severe range as of right now, other than maybe some light thunderstorms. Could rain, cold rain. Do you think I should expect anything here in northeastern Arkansas? That is a very good question. So, like we were discussing before, the severe threat does kind of look like it's just going to remain to the south here. There goes my camera here. So it's going to remain to the south here, just including bits of Texas into Louisiana, Mississippi, bits of Alabama here, Georgia, bits of south central Tennessee, as well as moving into maybe bits of the Carolinas. But Arkansas, nope, you're in the good range here for now. I don't see anything on the radar for you anytime soon. So that's just to answer your question there. Let's go ahead and see here. Blackberry Lady says, how is Fort Riley, Kansas looking? That's a really good question here. We're going to go and pull up Fort Riley, Kansas here. Like I said, I'm not the best with locations here, but I'm going to pull it up just so I can kind of get a general area here of what we're looking at. So give me 1 second. Fort Riley, Kansas. Okay, this is basically just northeast of Wichita, west of Topeka. Okay, we got you covered here. So, but like I was saying here, actually, yeah, like I said, across the region here, I should probably grab a better area here. Here we go. Central Great Plains, this does cover all of Kansas. Okay. So like I said, the same thing for Oklahoma and south of that, pretty much just for, Texas and eastward. It's mostly going to be the threat there. For Kansas, I don't see anything on the horizon here, but like I said, you really can't just trust one model individually here in regard to things. And so, yeah, I don't really expect anything crazy. Maybe you could get some rain here for maybe bits of the 5th into the 6th, but I don't expect anything crazy to happen for your area there. But yeah, that's essentially what we are talking about. So, like I said, guys, I'm here to answer your guys' questions if you do have any. If you are just now joining us, obviously welcome. I hope you all are having a great day so far, and I hope you guys have been staying safe here. Glad to see all of y'all here, and if you have any further questions, I'm going to be here for you guys 100% of the way. Like I said, we have a bit to talk about here. We have a new potential severe weather event here on the horizon. Now, there is some good news if you are just now joining us. Tornadoes does not seem to be a big concern. However, large hail and damaging winds is going to be the main concern here. I'm actually seeing a pretty decent look here in the long range and showing the potential of maybe some pretty large hail. I mean, we're talking bigger than $half size hail. We're talking some pretty large hailers, as well as some very large, some very, very damaging winds. Potentially a very strong squall line could move its way through the region here. So we're going to see in regard to things here. Let's go ahead and see here. Thanks, Andrew says, not Zach, you're very, very welcome. Wait, is Iowa supposed to get any more rain, though, right? Okay, let's go ahead and switch here back up to Iowa for you towards the Midwest. Now, the answer is yes. It does look like there is going to be some rain here for the 5th into the 6th for Iowa. Let's go and confirm this with GFS here. And it does look like that is probably going to be a concern here. So, yeah, maybe into the 5th, into the 6th. There's a possibility you could see that. Brian says, thanks for the info, man. You're very, very welcome. Are you in school for this? You're going to be shocked, but the answer is no. I've just been studying the weather here for maybe around 6 or 7 years. Whenever your average kid would have been going around and playing video games, I would have been here on the computer looking up weather stuff because I've always found this stuff so fascinating. I've had contact with many meteorologists in regard to things. I do not have a degree in this. Obviously, this is more for, I guess you would just say educational purposes only, but guys, I do know more than the average folk in regard to weather here, as some of you might be able to say here, but, like I said, I've just been studying the degree here for so long, and I've just accumulated so much knowledge, and it all just kind of clicked to me one day, in regard to things, and I've seen event after event play out, forecasted several events, winter storms, hurricanes, severe weather events, you name it. I've already went over in regard to things. Brian says should definitely go. Thank you so much, Brian. Greatly appreciate it. I would love to. I would actually love to work for the National Weather Service one day. This would be my my goal maybe in the future. But I also kind of do like doing YouTube as well here in regard to things here. Let's go ahead and see. Dennis says, Andrew, you are amazing. Degrees are overrated. Some may agree. Some also may disagree here. I do believe that degrees are good. Degrees basically shows that you have the knowledge written down on paper. The requirements which is needed for the field. Now, does not mean that you can't be smart in the field if you don't have any people teaching at you. Obviously, in some instances, for me especially, I learn better whenever I teach myself. Like I said, I look up one event. Like I said, I started off with radar. I started looking at radar, look for signatures like tornadoes and stuff like that on radar. And then eventually I started switching over to soundings here, which is these kind of complex little graphs here. It did actually kind of challenge me in regard to this here. I started to get a little, I'm like, oh, this is kind of hard, but I was so passionate, I just kept on pushing through, asked so many questions to meteorologists, and I've got soundings down to a pinpoint here. I've actually been studying them forever. I've been studying them for a long time, many years here. So went from radar to soundings to model viewing and to trends. Now, a big thing about these events here, a very important tool when it comes to forecasting. Now, I've seen so many people show the mistakes here in regard to things. I've seen so many people show mistakes here in regard to things here. They'd be looking at a single model, okay, and they'd be like, oh, that looks pretty bad. And they take a sounding here, just a random sounding, and say if it says severe or tornado here. They're like, oh my God, there's going to be a tornado. That is completely wrong. One, obviously, models do change every single run. There is 4 runs of GFS every single day, which is the long-range American model. There's 4 runs of the models here every single day here, and they are a little different each run. They're never the same. They are never going to be the same. Models will never, ever play out exactly as they do show here on the screens. Now, what plays out in reality and what plays out in the models is totally different, and a lot of people think that models are approximate, in which that is completely false. Models are not approximate, but they are just used for guidance purposes only. So essentially, the best way to use models, which people don't understand, is you can't just look at one. So say if you look at one model, for example, say this one shows, say one model, we'll just say GFS, says a lot of tornadoes, and the other major model, say a European model, your ECMWF says differently. There's a lot of disagreement between those two models, so obviously there is some uncertainty. So you got to take all these models' agreement into consideration and be like, okay, this is the number one trend. Both of these models say this. One of the models says this, but the other one doesn't. You got to kind of look at the middle ground here and kind of pull everything together where the most common ground between these models are. That'll give you much of a better idea in regard to what actually might play out here. So that's essentially how that works. Hopefully that made sense for you guys, but like I said, never trust one model individually. They're just used for guidance here. They are not perfect, nor will they ever be. But they are definitely a very useful tool and a very, very amazing thing to have on your side here. and they definitely do help out a lot. Models here, I'd say they take up at least 90% of forecasting. Observations, obviously, as well, is a big component on the actual day of, but out in the future, models are your go-to, for sure. So that's essentially what we're dealing with here. So, like I said, guys, I just kind of wanted to talk to you all in regard to essentially, what we might expect here down the line here. If you have any further questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat here. I'm going to be here for you guys until 9 o'clock here, like I said. We do our live streams here from 8 to 9 o'clock here. Frank says, hit those thumbs up. Guys, if you are new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button as well as leave a like. We greatly appreciate it. If you guys do want to support the channel as well, we do have a link in the description as well as pinned to chat. Obviously, you don't have to, but guys, anything will help. Like I said, we're trying to save up here for a new computer because the one I have right now is about to be retired here. It's getting pretty old. So, but like I said, guys, I don't know if you all saw my post earlier, but we ended up ordering some parts here for my computer. We're about $600 away from actually completing this goal here. I know my little bar here at the bottom right says a little different, but we're getting close. We're actually getting pretty seriously close here. So we really got to get our. I believe we could definitely get our computer here by the end of this month. Between me working here, between me, working out in the real world, and between me doing these events with you, and donations and stuff like that, we'll get it here in no time, y'all, and we're gonna be able to give you the absolute best coverage in regard to things without any interruptions, just like how my camera always cuts off, as well as essentially, how my programs have crashed. I mean, this program, literally, hold on, let's go switch on over here. This program we're talking about right here, this program has crashed so many times recently, and the thing is the other day when we did our 12-hour live stream here covering that event, I didn't hit the end stream button. My computer ended up crashing. Just to kind of show you what we're talking about here. But anyways, besides the subject here, that's not really the main concern. So right now, guys, like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat here. I'm going to be here for you guys here until 9 o'clock, so we have about roughly 15 minutes to go, about 14 to be exact here. In regard to things, Gabe says, you're great. Thank you so much, Gabe. Greatly appreciated. Also says I should be on the news channel. I do see Ice Sniper's comment here. I did not see, essentially, I didn't see that before, so sorry about that. Is Iowa going to get hit with bad stuff? The answer is no. We already looked at Iowa. You're in the clear as of now. So, as of now, the answer is no. Let's go ahead and see here. Brian says storm chase. I guess you mean, do I storm chase? And yes, I do. I actually have storm chase a few times. No tornadoes on film yet. I've gotten some pretty decent hail, some pretty decent damaging winds, and many dozens of good lightning strikes here. I absolutely love lightning photography. As crazy and as creepy as that can be, especially once you got that lightning going all around you, constant CGs, constant cloud to ground lightning strikes. It's pretty crazy. It's honestly very crazy. In regard to things, it's it's very intimidating. It's very adrenalizing. There goes my camera. That's an example of what I'm telling you about. It's not my camera's fault, guys. It's my computer. Because whenever I'm on video chats and stuff like that, it never wants to act up. It's only whenever I go live here, because my CPU is always, it's literally on fire between my streaming software, me actually streaming, the satellite view, and my radar program, or this program right here that is very graphic intensive. But anyways, but yeah, that's essentially what we were talking about. So I haven't got any tornadoes on film. However, I have seen a few tornadoes in my day. I've actually seen I've been in 3 tornadoes, but I've only seen one here and near Mammoth Cave, Kentucky. This was back in the late 2000s, the early 2010s. I was a kid. I was a pretty young child then. I remember seeing it I was on the highway back to my grandma's house from a party with my aunt. And as we were going back, there was tornado warnings. That's the reason we actually left. We were on the highway here, and things started getting dark. And next thing you know, you start seeing, sheets of just winds, pulverized just wind sheets, wind curtains, driven by rain. And you start to see like those speed limit signs starting to wobble. I remember seeing that, and some leaves blowing on the ground. And you look over to your left, pretty hard to see, but there was a funnel cloud, and then a little bit after there was a tornado. That was actually the first tornado I've ever seen. It was a very frightening, a very thrilling, it's an amazing experience here. It's a crazy experience to see so many emotions go through you when you see your first tornado. It's like terrifying, but amazing at the same time. I mean, I believe that everyone in your lifetimes, you should see a tornado from a distance, obviously without any damage per se, but they're just absolutely beautiful. From a safety of a good distance, they are so beautiful to look at. Absolutely crazy here. Let's go ahead and see here. Gabe says, do I go to college? The answer is not yet. I do not go to college here. But like I said, I've gained all my knowledge here from studying weather, talking to meteorologists. I mean, I have friends here from the National Weather Service here in Virginia, some in South Carolina. I am also friends with local news reporters here towards my local region here in Northern Virginia, kind of around the D.C. area. A few of them like Howard Bernstein, pretty good meteorologist. He's worked for WSA9. Good friends with him, as well as Topper Shutt. I don't really talk to Topper Shutt too much, but I have a decent amount of meteorologists that I do talk to every once in a while here. Especially I usually try to go to the people in the National Weather Service if I have any advice, because while they're off duty anyways, because I do have direct contact with one meteorologist, works at the National Weather Service in Blacksburg, Virginia, basically southwestern Virginia here. And if I have any questions, I usually just ask him. That's basically how I started. I started learning about something. I was like, wow, that's interesting. Started on a new subject, and I started learning about something else. And I was like, huh. And then what happens is once you start learning so many different sides of things, there's one day, you just sit there and you think. And for my case, whenever I'm on my, alone time, sometimes I go out in the back porch and I swing, because we have a little swing out there. And I just go out there and swing it, and that's whenever I start thinking. It's like, okay, then I start thinking weather stuff, and it's like, well, I learned about this, and then I think about something else, and it's like, wait, those two connect perfectly. That's how you learn. And it's amazing. It's such a cool feeling to see exactly just all your knowledge coming together. It's just such an amazing feeling here. Ross says it's cool to be a nerd. It really is. I mean, anything else, any other subject, I'm not the brightest guy, but when it comes to weather, this is definitely my strongest subject. It has been. Like I said, I really started heavy research around like 2018. I've been into weather all my life, ever since I was a kid. I mean, we're talking probably 6 years old. Back in kindergarten, I used to love weather. I mean, depending, from the movie Twister, I remember on VHS, I always used to rewind it back, watch it over, rewind it back, watch it over. I've literally watched it like 2 or 3 times on end one time before the movie Twister. That's what got me into it, and then obviously with me experiencing my first tornado, that kind of amplified things, and then a lot of memories, a lot of precious memories going back in the day of like winter storms and being off school. It's just it really drives a sentimental value into your memory, and it's so nostalgic. It's just absolutely a beautiful thing. The old memories you have, and that also kicked it off. And then also around whenever I started, actually I have it right here, but whenever I started looking at meteorology and started getting into like model viewing and radar and soundings, all types of, all the cool stuff, all the crazy stuff that you look in the weather field. Once I started looking at all that, what sparked it is this guy right here. You guys may have seen these in your day. This exact model, per se, maybe. This is what we call an ER210. Not only is it a handy little flashlight, but what it is essentially... WXWSR88B in Sterling, Virginia, and yeah, weather radio. What you're hearing on the background is essentially what this is, only in a handheld version from a local state. So, no weather radio. That really kicked everything off, and hearing those warnings go through, just like, wow, I really want to learn more about this. And seriously pretty crazy here. Let's go ahead and see here. I was really good Earth and space science. I loved Earth science. Okay, I'm gonna tell you guys this. I absolutely loved Earth science. Oceanography was pretty cool too. We learned a lot about NOAA and oceanography. About NOAA, National Oceanic Atmosphere Administration, which is the branch off of the National Weather Service. So, or basically the branch on. So basically, you have NOAA, the Central Corporation, National Oceanic Atmosphere Administration, created in 1970, and then you have the branch that goes off of NOAA, National Weather Service. There is 122 forecast offices across the United States, including some in Alaska, some in Hawaii, as well as the mainland United States. But yeah, honestly, that's how that all kind of kicked off here. It's pretty cool here. Let's go and see here. Denver. I guess you mean like Denver, Denver, Colorado. That's what you're trying to say, Tyler, here. I don't know what you mean by that, but, you know, like I said, that's essentially you know, what we're talking about, you guys. And, you know, like I said, guys, if you're new to the channel, do me a favor. Consider hitting that subscribe button. I'll be greatly appreciated. You guys absolutely rock. You guys are the best. Just always know that. If you have any questions, feel free to throw them down in the chat here. I just absolutely love just hanging out with you guys on a nightly live stream. Like I said, we do live streams here every single night at 8 o'clock, depending on what kind of weather. If there's nothing going on, you know, we're here to hang out here. You just hang out, have a good old time, and chat about weather, whatever. Like I said, if you have any questions regarding anything at all, I'm going to do my best ability to answer it for you. Because I know that you guys probably have some questions out there that you probably would, you know, die to have answered. And like I said, we're going to be here for you guys. Let's go ahead and see here. Brian says, we are in a record-breaking year for tornadoes in March. Well, obviously, March is no longer. We did have a very active season for March here. It was pretty crazy. Last December was very active as well, especially the December 10th outbreak we did see. Very, very sad to see here. Very, very sad to see here. Let's go ahead and see here. Sean David says, that's wicked satellite. Why do we not have the same local weather? Don't know what you mean by that. I think you're talking about the satellite above my head here. If you look at that little bar that goes across, that's basically the radar transitioning from visible, you know, actual, like, you know, visible satellite into infrared mode. Like you see it right there. There goes sunrise. That's all throughout the day to day. Then the next wave comes through. That's sunset right now. So infrared's on the eastern side of the United States, while it's still pretty daylight here on the western coast of the United States, but it won't be for long. But yeah, that's essentially what we're talking about here. Brian says most tornado for March, well, another year as well. It's been pretty crazy, and like I said, we've been in La Nina. That's a whole other topic I'm not going to get into today, but we've been in La Nina for 2020, 2021, and 2022. We've been in La Nina for almost 3 years now. I believe in part of 2019 as well. We've been in a pretty decent La Nina, which statistically it should turn into a El Nino here soon. If you go off of statistics from the year 1950 and previous, or 1950 and onward, we should be going to a El Nino statistically soon. But yeah, you know, that's essentially what we've seen here. And like I said, La Nina events do allow for an active hurricane season, and what we did see in 2020 was the most active hurricane season on record. I believe there was, 30 named storms? I could be wrong, maybe 30-something named storms here. Absolutely crazy. 2021 was a very active, very active, season as well. You know, any La Nina year, it's usually more above average in the Atlantic Ocean in terms of hurricanes, and can be pretty crazy. And it can also drive some severe weather here. A lot of severe weather across the southeast. In regard to things. Pretty absolutely crazy. But anyways, guys, if you have any further questions, like I said, we're about to wrap up the live stream here. We have 3 more minutes to go here. So we're about to wrap up the live stream. If you have any further questions, guys, feel free to throw them down in the chat. There goes my camera here for the second or third time for the live stream here today. Like I said, we are trying to save up here for a new computer. So if you guys do want to help support us, there is a link in the description. I don't want to have this up here. There we go. Like I said, there is a link in the description. If you guys do want to support the channel, like I said, it'd be greatly appreciated. You guys absolutely rock here. So like I said, y'all, thank you so much for, you know, joining us here today. I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your day here. But yeah, that's essentially what we are talking about. Matt Rhodes says, hey guys. Well, Matt, you just joined at the wrong time here. We're about to go ahead and call it a live stream here. But like I said, y'all, you know, thank you so much for joining. You guys absolutely rock. You guys are the best. My camera's off here. My thing's glitched, so I'm just going to keep it off here for the rest of the live stream here. But like I said, you guys, you know, thank you so much for joining us here tonight. You guys are absolutely the best. Just always know that. Just know that you guys matter here. Let's go ahead and see here. Sean says, thank you for awesome satellite footage. You're very, very welcome. Glad to be here for you guys. But like I said, y'all, thank you so much for being here tonight. Hope to see you guys here tomorrow. If you're new to the channel, consider hitting that subscribe button. Share the channel with your friends and family here. Let them know what's going on in the weather world as well. Like I said, we do nightly live streams here every single night at 8 o'clock. And also we do stream the pre-event live streams as well as things as well. Let's go and see Maddie. Thank you so much for subscribing. Greatly appreciated. You guys absolutely rock. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for being here. But anyways, guys, I'm going to go ahead and sign off here for tonight. Y'all take care. If you have any further questions, feel free to contact us. We have our social media here in the description. We have our Discord. We have our Twitter here, as well as Facebook and Instagram. So if you guys do want to check it out, It's in the description. But anyways, guys, thank you all so much for joining tonight, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your night. Take care, you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
Waves 1 to 2 feet. Saturday night, south winds 5 to 10 knots with gusts to 20 knots. Waves 2 feet. Sunday, west winds 10 to 15 knots.